Step 1. Base edge preparation, analysis, tuning and detailing.
The goal here is to show you how to clean your base so you can correctly analyze your current base edge bevel in two different ways with the TrueBar.
First, if you have wax on your ski, scrape it off so you can get an accurate reading from the TrueBar. Then use a soft steel or brass hand or roto brush. We prefer soft steel because it has finer wire and cleans the structure a little better. You can also opt for a brass brush, which is more economical, and for most tuners the difference will be minimal. If budget is less of a concern, rotos are a great time saver, especially if you have multiple skis to do. Now spray on your cleaning mixture and remove any remaining debris. Next, using your TrueBar is as simple as placing it across both edges using a backlight to tell you A, the size of the gap between the edge and the TrueBar, or B, if the edges touch the TrueBar. In the first method, you'll check in 10 cm or 4-inch increments along the entire length of the edges. If you encounter any spots where there's no gap, lightly move your TrueBar side to side to confirm if you hear the sound of steel on steel. If you do, mark these spots with a Sharpie. If you don't, continue on. Another method is to move the TrueBar in a wavy pattern, very lightly like this down the entire length of the base, listening for those high spots. Again, mark these areas so they can be corrected later.
Now we're going to look at 3 common base edge scenarios we're often faced with on new skis and how to deal with them.
Scenario 1. Moving the TrueBar in a wavy pattern down the base of this brand new ski, I don't feel any drag or hear the sound of steel on steel anywhere on the edges, which is good. I tested the ski on snow and it felt great. However, I'm still going to detail the tips and tails to optimize the ski's performance. In scenario 2, we have a newly ground ski that has a consistent base edge bevel here in the body, but at the tips and tails there's little to no bevel. So we'll mark these spots with a Sharpie. You can also see these linear grinding stone marks right here, which make this ski hard to turn and felt catchy on the snow. This can happen after machine grinds. We recommend to detail the tips and tails, otherwise these edges will feel uncomfortably catchy and difficult to turn. In the third scenario, we hear steel on steel throughout the entire length of this brand new ski with the TrueBar. These edges are railed or edge high, which literally makes them unskiable, or at best, unenjoyable. One option is to get the ski ground flat and have the base edge bevel done on a quality machine, and then you detail the tips and tails. Option 2 is to set your desired bevel on the entire length of the edges by hand, and then detail the tips and tails, which we'll demonstrate next.
We hear many people tell us they're afraid to touch their base edges, so let's go through some simple methods to demonstrate how easy this is, especially with our Pro Base Bevel Guide.
Let's get started by marking off 5, 10, and 15 centimeters. Where the ski runs flat, not where the edge curves up. Do this on both the tips and your tails to help you decide how far you'd prefer to go. If you're not sure, we recommend testing 10 centimeters first on adult length skis. Next, you'll insert a base file into your guide in this direction and secure it with the SIDECUT wedge from this side. Place the guide on the base, ensuring both D-glides contact the side edge of your ski for the most precise bevel. Note that this stainless steel glide plate right here determines your bevel. Therefore, it must always stay in contact with your base. Now make very light passes pulling the file towards you and be certain you stop at your predetermined Sharpie mark. If you're new to this, lift the guide on the backstroke so you can't mark the base with the file. Set it back down a couple of centimeters behind your starting point and with very light downward pressure, draw towards you, feeling the file cutting the steel. Move your file every 2 to 3 passes in approximately 1 centimeter increments to release the filings to expose a clean section of the file. And if needed, brush the debris from both the base and the file. Remember, if you don't feel your file or stone contacting the edge, don't push harder. It just means that the current bevel on your edge is already greater than the bevel of your guide. Therefore, the only solution, apart from regrinding the ski, is moving up to your next degree increment if you want to contact the edge.
Let's look at a few other options when detailing your base edges. This way you can test to figure out what's easiest for you and gives you the best results.
Option 1, try wrapping 400 grit sandpaper around your file, being certain the sandpaper contacts this stainless steel plate right here and the guide. Take a few light passes and then finish with 600 grit sandpaper. And remember, if you don't hear any sound, that's your confirmation that you've reached your angle, so you're done. The second option is to use a 400 grit diamond stone or diamond disc. Either will work in the Pro Base Bevel Guide. Take a few light passes and then finish with your 600 or 1000 grit diamond. You can test out using diamonds dry or spray on your edge solution to see which method makes base edge detailing easier for you. Your third option is to test ceramic or elastic stones, dry or wet, to see if they give you the outcome you're after. One thing worth mentioning here is if you're uncomfortable using a file, you can perform all of these detailing options going in both directions as previously demonstrated. This may make it easier, especially when you're learning. Last of all, take 1 to 2 very light full-length passes to tie in the transition point right here where you detailed the tips and tails. Use whichever option you prefer, but one thing to keep in mind is to always maintain the exact same downward pressure no matter where you are on the edge. Do this by keeping the tool directly under you when moving, not outstretched and away from you. This will prevent any waviness to the edge and give you the most consistent tune that will feel noticeably different. We've focused on detailing the tips and the tails here, but remember to apply these same options and techniques to any other high spots that you may have on the edges. Step 2. Sidewall and Topsheet preparation. Analysis, removal, profiling, and polishing.
Next, we'll demonstrate how to profile your tips and tails using our Topsheet remover.
Skis and boards need to be profiled to create clearance for your desired bevel to be applied correctly to the side edges. When the top sheet is square as shown here, it makes it impossible to achieve this with only your file guide. Before we proceed, let's mark our start point up here on the curve of the tip and our stop point, which is about 5 centimeters past the point where the sidewall step starts. On the tail, our start point is right on this curvature, and our stop point is again approximately 5 centimeters past the point where this tiny step or ridge is visible. Wearing cut protective gloves, adjust the angle of the Panzer file so it'll bite into the top sheet. Grip the tool very firmly, pulling the top sheet remover toward you with consistent even passes, paying close attention to the profile you're creating. Place your other hand on the ski or your wrist, or pinch the file firmly for the best precision and prevent slippage. Stop when you can clearly see an even, consistent angle between your pre-marked start and stop points. From this angle, it's easy to see the difference between the profiled top sheet and the stock top sheet. Now let's compare the amount of clearance we have with the file on the edge of the profiled top sheet versus the unprofiled top sheet. The benefit of the top sheet guide is it allows you to create the perfect 70-degree profile, which means that when a high degree of edge angle is required, the profiled top sheet won't drag in the snow and grip better, especially on hard conditions. You will also notice easier turn initiation and a nicer release out of your turns.
We're going to learn more about the sidewall and show you why you need to remove it.
This is our sidewall, and here you'll notice this little step, also known as the sidewall step. Next to this is the steel edge that we'll later set to your preferred degree of bevel. And on this ski, there's this thin layer of aluminum alloy between the sidewall step and the edge. It's important to know that you'll always need to remove this sidewall step and typically some of the aluminum alloy if your skis have this layer, because they can both interfere with your file's ability to contact the steel edge, making it impossible to sharpen the edge on your chosen bevel. For example, take a look at this file guide, which is precisely machined with a 4-degree angle. It's easy to see when the file is clamped on that you can't contact the edge since it's interfered with right here. And as I pull the file guide, I can feel that it's not cutting the steel edge and instead cutting into the sidewall step, which you can see is loaded up in the teeth of the file. As a result, we must remove some of it so we can effectively bevel the edge.
Let's learn more about the different sidewall cutters and show you exactly what needs to be removed.
Sidewall material and hardness can vary greatly amongst brands and especially between junior and adult models. Therefore, choosing the correct cutter is crucial for the optimal outcome. In general, round cutters are easier to work with, whereas square and multis require a little more adjustment to dial in the perfect cut. However, many prefer them on cap construction skis, or if an angled sidewall is preferred, shown here on this orange ski, versus a curved style sidewall done with a round cutter, shown here on this yellow ski. Let's look closer at what we specifically need to remove. To help you understand, run your fingernail along this groove until it ends, right here where your finger slips off the sidewall. Now make a mark with your Sharpie, then another mark 1 centimeter back from this. Do this on the other end of the ski as well. Now place the sidewall remover on this second mark. This is your starting point. Just to clarify, here's where the sidewall step starts and this is where it ends. So don't be concerned with the tip and tail sections because they typically require a separate adjustment on your sidewall tool to cut them in since there's no step. More importantly, we feel these sections are blended in much better when done with your top sheet remover. This can be done either before or after, but we recommend to do your top sheet profiling first. Next, unlock the stainless steel pin with your Allen key and dial in the micro adjuster until the cutter is exactly on the point of this step.
Now we're going to demonstrate what we feel is the easiest way to remove your sidewalls and give you some key tips so you can do a really great job.
Start by unlocking the stainless steel pin with an Allen key and dial in the micro adjuster until the cutter is exactly on the point of this step. Lastly, adjust the angle of your cutter to approximately 1 or 2 o'clock and tighten up the screw. Here we go. Starting 1 centimeter back from where the sidewall step starts, pull very gently with little downward pressure until you get a curl. Then increase the downward pressure ever so slightly and in one constant motion, without stopping, keeping the tool steady, walk to the opposite end of the sidewall maintaining the same speed and downward pressure. Remember to let up on the pressure just before the sidewall step ends and continue approximately 1 centimeter further. It's that easy. If your skis have a metal layer, take 1 to 2 light passes to remove it, applying the same technique. The only difference is that you'll start right up at the tips or tails. Be certain the cutter is adjusted accurately and you're only removing the metal. If you're hitting the steel edge, then simply stop and readjust. You can also use your top sheet remover to do this. Either way, this will make it easier to get your edges sharp.
Let's review some key reminders when using your sidewall remover.
First of all, the tension of your grip should be an 8 or 9 out of 10. However, the downward pressure on the sidewall with the cutter should be a 1 out of 10. Remember, once you get the curl, you can increase your downward pressure slightly to a 2 or 3, and then ease up again at the opposite end of the ski to a 1 to prevent any chattering. Keep your sidewall remover fairly close to you with your elbow bent, and maintain the exact same speed by walking with your tool. Try using your forefinger and thumb to pinch the stainless steel pin for enhanced precision and minimize vibration. This will help eliminate the potential for chatter marks on your sidewall. We don't recommend taking short, aggressive, overlapping passes. They will likely create tiny grooves in the sidewall that turn into severe chatter marks as you make more passes. If you're experiencing chatter marks, it's most often caused by an incorrect cutter angle, you're pushing down too hard and too quickly, or you're using the wrong cutter for the density of your sidewall. Take your time, test, and figure out what works best on your skis. If you're finding your files slipping on the edge when you're trying to sharpen them, this is typically solved by aligning the file on your top sheet tool to remove this thin layer of aluminum alloy with just a couple of passes.
Here we're going to demonstrate how to finish and sand your top sheet and your sidewall. We'll give you 2 different sidewall options and provide some key reminders.
First, we'll look at how to deal with the angled style sidewall. Convert your top sheet remover into a sander by removing the Panzer file and adding the trigger clamp. Then wrap sandpaper around your file or stone. Anything flat will work. Position the sandpaper so it contacts the sidewall step only, but doesn't touch the flat right here. In this zone only, take as many passes as needed to create a smooth, even step that transitions nicely into the flat part of the sidewall. Next, adjust your angle as needed and sand the top sheet sections of the tips and tails and blend in the crossover points where the top sheet meets the sidewall right here and here. For this flat section, wrap your sandpaper around the sanding block and sand until smooth, removing all imperfections. To maintain smooth sidewalls throughout the season, use Fibertex with your top sheet tool. Or another option is to wrap your Fibertex around a green gummy and get the edge of the gummy right into this transition, using it as your guide. Polish the 3 different angles along your ski to keep them really smooth. If you've opted to create a curved style sidewall with your round cutter, then wrap your sandpaper around a dowel or just use your thumb and sand it to your liking. Sand the tips and the tails of the top sheet as previously demonstrated and treat the flat section of the sidewall the same way as well. It should look like this when you're finished. These methods will allow you to achieve a smooth, uniform top sheet and sidewall that won't interfere with the correct sharpening and polishing of your edges. Step 3. Side edge preparation. Analysis, tuning, finishing, and troubleshooting.
Many people ask, is it necessary to sharpen my brand new skis because the edges look so good? It's true, most often they do, but by setting them up correctly, you'll be grateful for the improved performance. Here we'll show you what to look for on side edges of your brand new skis and how to do the pre-setup.
Using a loop will really help you to have a more informed look at your edges. You can see that the machining marks are quite uniform throughout the body here, but not in the tip and tail sections. The appearance of the steel is not consistent. It's more erratic and patchy. To correct this, choose either the 120 or 200 grit diamond disc and place it on your guide over the locator nut. Then insert the U-spacer and tighten the thumb screw. Be sure to use low adhesive tape or at least clean the face of your guide with Fibertex to prevent marking the base. Now you're going to take light to medium weight overlapping passes, being certain to go right around the curve at the tips and the tails. Focus particularly on removing these patchy marks, but also consistency with your passes along the entire edge. The diamond will soften the hardened steel, making it much easier to file later. Remember to give the disc a slight twist each time it loads excessively with metal debris from the edge. Finish by taking a couple of full-length passes of the entire edge. Once you see that the markings are more even in tone and color, you'll move on to filing.
It can be difficult to know which side files you should use. Here are some key guidelines to help you choose.
Cut 10s are mostly used for brand new skis or ones that have recently been done by machine. Cut 14 files are our most popular and very easy to get sharp results. If you're tuning daily, then cut 15s are the best due to their precise cut. Cut 16 files are used for extra fine filing on edges that are nearly perfect or need only touching up. They're commonly used by competitive skiers, especially on Super G and downhill skis.
Next up, we'll demonstrate how to file your side edges and give you some key reminders.
Fastening the file to the guide is simple. Slide the file in with this arrow facing you until it touches the screw, and adjust the clamp to a comfortable place for your thumb to rest. Tighten the thumb screw, then place your forefinger on the trigger and your thumb on the clamp. It's really important you start with the bevel right around the curve of the tip or tail. Now with a firm grip, 8 or 9 out of 10, take even overlapping passes with light downward pressure, ensuring your guide is running absolutely flat on the base of your ski. It's normal to have some resistance initially, especially due to the hardness of the newly machined edges. But after a few passes, you'll cut through the machining marks and filing will be easy. Remember to stop when needed to brush away the filings on the ski, as well as the file on your guide, and if necessary, use your file brush to clean out the teeth following its groove pattern. Continue filing to remove all grinding marks until the tone and color of the edges is identical across the width of the edge. This is your visual confirmation that you've set an accurate bevel.
Here are some guidelines to show you what the different diamond grits are used for.
120 or 200 grit stones and discs are used for removing heavier burrs, rock damage, and grinding marks. They may also be used for sharpening skis that aren't too far out of acuteness, especially when you don't have time to do a full tune. 400 grit diamonds are your real workhorses and used for both sharpening and initial polishing, especially if used with lubrication. 600 grit is for extra fine polishing, and 1000 diamond grits are for ultra fine polishing and give you extremely sharp edges.
Let's look at 3 methods to polish your edges and some key things to remember.
After filing your side edges to your preferred bevel, it's crucial to polish them so they grip well and feel great on snow. You can choose either a diamond guide or a file guide to do this, whichever you prefer. There are 3 options when polishing your edges. You can do it dry, without lubrication, with your pre-mixed edge solution sprayed lightly on your entire edge, or you can put a tiny drop of side edge oil about every 5 to 10 centimeters along the edge and add 1 drop to the diamond. When you get to the polishing stage, work in full-length passes only. This is to remove the overlapping marks you created from filing and ensures you don't get what we call a wavy edge. When you switch from your 400 to your 600 grit diamond, you'll feel less resistance and hear less sound. This is confirmation that your edge is getting smoother. You can hear the difference here where the edge is polished compared to this section where it hasn't been polished. Now transition to your 1000 grit diamond if preferred. You also have the option to finish with either an elastic or ceramic stone for super sharp edges. Wipe your edges perfectly clean, and lastly, looking very closely at the edge, you should notice a nice even uniform color across its entire width and length. This is your visual cue that you're finished.
If you really want to speed up your tuning time, it's really important to use both a file guide and a diamond guide.
Many ask, when do I use a file guide and when do I use a diamond guide? The quick answer is, use both, especially if you want to speed up your tuning time. For example, I can prep this new edge with my diamond guide and 200 diamond disc and immediately start filing the edge with my file guide, which means there's no change over time. Then I can quickly transition back to my diamond guide and 400 disc to wet polish my edges, which requires no cleaning time. So toggling back and forth, you'll quickly realize this saves a considerable amount of time. Also, as you can see here, we have limited adjustment with the rectangular stone on the file guide. However, with the disc, I can continuously turn it to find a clean section of diamond when it gets loaded with debris, making it more efficient. The diamond guides are also really beneficial when filing isn't necessary and you only need a quick tune-up. You can literally do it on the fly or in the parking lot. A well-tuned ski is without question a game changer, so if you can save time, we believe you'll be more likely to do it.
Let's learn how to remove your base edge burr after you've tuned your side edges.
After side edge filing and polishing, you may feel this little hanging burr with your fingernail on the base edge. Use either your 1000 grit diamond, ceramic, or elastic stone. Slightly angle the stone on the base and subtly tip it to precisely match the bevel of the edge. Using your thumb and forefinger, make one very light accurate pass to remove the burr. Use your Pro Base-Bevel guide if you're not confident doing this by hand. Check again with your thumbnail to ensure the burr is gone and the edge is perfectly smooth. It may seem like overkill to use the loupe to inspect your work, but it's actually a really great way to improve your eye and your tuning. You'll notice many subtle and not so subtle nuances that will encourage better tunes, which will be rewarding on snow. This will also make you a better skier and rider.
Detuning is an important aspect of your tune. It's also very personal. The good news is it's easy to do, and here's 2 methods to show you how.
The common style to take some of the aggressiveness away from your edge is to position your green gummy right on the point of the edge and take a few light passes. But the issue is if you apply too much pressure with your gummy stone, you can round the edges and remove the sharpness entirely, which will cause the skis to chatter and vibrate on harder snow. That's why we suggest using the anti-vibration style of detuning, which redirects the sharpness on your tips and tails instead of removing the sharpness entirely. Here's how you do it. On the running surface of the base, make a mark at 5 to 10 centimeters. Then take your ultrafine ceramic or elastic stone and make 2 to 3 passes with super light pressure between your marks on both the tips and tails. Creating more angle on the stone will give you less sharpness, and creating less angle on the stone will give you more sharpness. Test and adjust both the angle and how far you detune, based on your preference, snow type, and ski type. Another option to experiment with is to detune your outside edges slightly more than your inside edges. Play with the variables to discover what feels best on snow for you.
Can't get your edges sharp? Let's look at the top 12 solutions to help you.
Number 1. Learning the technique of back cutting allows you to cut into the aluminum alloy and a tiny bit of the back half of the edge right here. It's super easy. Just use a file guide that is 1 degree greater than what you want your finished edge on. For example, I'll take a couple of light passes with my 94 degree guide. You can see here where it contacts this half of the edge. This makes it much easier when I drop back down to my 93 degree guide because the file is only required to remove half of this edge, which results in a cleaner, sharper, less burr-prone cut. Number 2. Position the file on your Topsheet tool very precisely to cut only this metal layer between the edge and the sidewall. This can make it much easier to get your edges sharper because the file only needs to cut the steel edge. Number 3. Position the cutter on your sidewall remover very accurately to cut only this metal layer between the edge and the sidewall. Number 4. If your file is loading up with sidewall, then position the cutter on your sidewall remover to cut more of the sidewall step. Number 5. If your file is loading up with the sidewall and top sheet material, then position the file on your top sheet remover to cut more of the top sheet on a steeper angle by rolling it like this. Number 6. Know when to replace your worn out files and stones. Number 7. Clean your files often with your file brush in the direction of the teeth. Number 8. Always clean your diamonds after you've finished your session. This will make them cut much better. Smear 1 drop of the edge polishing oil onto the diamond surface and rub vigorously on a coarse towel. Then place them in your diamond rack to dry. Number 9. Change the position of your file on your file guide to find an unused portion. Number 10. Change the position of your stone on the guide to find an unused section of diamond. Number 11. Remove all burrs prior to filing with a coarse diamond stone or disc so that the file doesn't slip. Number 12. Get someone more experienced to check your technique or join one of our Learn to Tune workshops. Step 4. Base preparation. Waxing, brushing, and polishing.
Let's go through the steps on how to prepare your bases for using Nanox wax.
Scrape your skis to remove any wax that may be present. Then inspect your base. If you see a lot of tiny hairs, wrap Fibertex around your true bar and take approximately 5 to 10 passes back and forth, finishing with 1 long pass tip to tail. Take another pass with your scraper, knocking all the fibers back in the direction of glide. Removing microhairs opens the structure and allows your base to absorb wax better. Next, open the structure by taking 2 to 3 passes with your soft steel or brass oval brush. Divide your ski into 3 sections: the tip, binding section, and the tail. Now brush left side, right side, then middle. In the binding section, it's narrower, so you're only going to brush left side and right side. On the tail, brush left side, right side, then the middle, exactly as you did on the tip. This technique reminds you to always maintain symmetry with your brushes, which prolongs the nice structure in your base. Another option to open the structure is by taking 1 to 2 passes with your soft steel or brass roto brush. Set your drill to a maximum of 1000 RPMs, applying light pressure. You do not want to generate heat. Be certain your roto is running perfectly flat on your base. Now clean the base with your pre-mixed solution to remove any dust and contaminants. Then apply low adhesive tape to the sidewalls under the binding section to prevent wax from overflowing onto your sidewalls and bindings. This saves a lot of time removing wax from these areas later. Now you're ready to apply Nanox training wax.
With Nanox training wax, you only need 1 wax for all snow conditions and temperatures. Let's look at its simple application and some unique features that set it apart.
Rub a thin layer of Nanox training wax onto your cleaned and prepped base so it disperses easier when your hot iron contacts it. Once your iron reaches the correct temperature, wipe off the old wax with a clean towel. Then drip a generous amount of wax onto your base. Start at the tip of your ski on the first pass and evenly melt the wax into your base, moving the iron in overlapping sections like this to ensure you have full base coverage. On your second pass, you'll go from the tail of the ski back to the tip at a slow and steady speed without stopping. And then on your third and final pass, you'll return slowly back to the tail. Notice the 5 to 10 centimeter trail of melted wax behind your iron. With Nanox wax, only 3 passes are required for optimal results. Note that more passes will not allow Nanox to penetrate better or improve performance. Another unique feature is that you're going to remove Nanox wax within approximately 2 minutes or while it's still lukewarm. It should be noted that this is about the exact amount of time it'll take to wax your other ski, which means you can already start scraping your first ski right when you're finished waxing your second ski. This sets Nanox apart from any other waxes in the industry, making it unbelievably fast to get the job done. Placing both thumbs and forefingers on your scraper, slide forward with even pressure from tip to tail. Once the majority of the wax is out of the base, decrease the angle of your scraper, which decreases the sharpness, and take a few more light passes if necessary. Remove the wax from your edges with either the notch or the end of your scraper. If needed, put your ski on its side to remove the wax from the sidewall with either your scraper or Fibertex. And while the ski is still warm to touch, brush only with your hard nylon oval. If you prefer your hard nylon roto brush, Set it at a maximum of 1000 RPMs and apply low pressure, ensuring the roto is running flat on the base. Rebrush with your hard nylon after the base has reached room temperature. Polish vigorously back and forth until you've achieved an ultra-high sheen on the base. If desired, take 1 to 2 passes with your soft nylon brush to remove any remaining wax dust. Last of all, use 2 to 3 straps to transport your skis and protect your bases.